All right, so we've talked about shortstops. We've talked about starting pitchers. We've talked about third baseman. We've talked about what position you should be going early. Now let's talk about the position that's going to be scoring the most points. Let's talk about these outfielders. And yeah, as always, before we get into the video, make sure you're dropping a like, make sure you are leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel. It helps us a ton. And before we get into your three guys, Anthony, you have anything to plug that will be in the description of the video down below.
Yeah, head over to the Perfectly Framed podcasts on all platforms, iTunes, Spotify. We talk about relief pitching, the history of baseball, stats that you need to know for your fantasy baseball league. So come on over, join Nate, Todd, and myself as we, dig deep into the world of fantasy baseball.
All right, well, but actually, before we get into your 3 or 4 targets, I have an embarrassing question to ask you, Anthony. Obviously, you are the expert here. I am the guy who has no idea what is going on. But as a casual baseball fan, I know that Mike Trout is the man. Mike Trout is pretty much who everybody's talking about, despite him playing on a poor team every single season. He's on pace to be a truly historic player. And right now, he's going as the 4th outfielder off the board in these high-stakes leagues. Please tell me what I am missing. Tell me what I do not know, because maybe some other people have the same question.
Mason, average draft position has become something of a crutch for the regular standard fantasy baseball player. And I'm here to tell you that you can break free of average draft position. I promise. You do not have to worry about what I did in my 15 team, 50 player deep draft champions rotisserie league. I promise you don't have to stick to that. That is not how fantasy baseball is played in the common regular leagues. Mike Trout is going later and later in those drafts for one reason and one reason only. Mike Trout doesn't steal as many bases as he used to. It doesn't mean that Mike Trout has become any less of a player. He still gets on base 42% of the time. He's still going to hit well over 300. Mike Trout's got like a 60 home run season waiting in him somewhere. These monster numbers, 130 runs scored and 140 RBI. Like that season could still happen. Mike Trout is still the best player in baseball until, Juan Soto or one of these guys takes over for him. So being the best player in baseball most of the time correlates to being the best player in fantasy leagues. In this case, average draft position showing Mike Trout going as the 4th outfielder, maybe 5th or 6th overall if a pitcher slid in there. Tatis, I think, is in there too. So Mike Trout going middle of the 1st round is pretty much nonsense in any format outside of one where you're looking to be in an overall contest where stolen bases are so valuable and they go so fast that you need to find someone who's going to steal you 25 bases in the 1st round.
Oh, all right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. That answers that question perfectly. You want to get into some of these guys that you are going to be targeting in these drafts?
Absolutely. And man, I feel like a broken record because I'm targeting a guy who coming into 2020 was maybe the number 1 overall pick. And that was Christian Yelich. And that was for good reason. He hit 327. I'm not making this up. 327, 40 homers, 26 stolen bases, like 110-ish runs and RBIs over 2 different seasons between 2018 and 2019. You didn't just do it once. So coming into 2020, this guy was like, bing, 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 cannot miss, hands down, fantasy stud, get Yelich, take him over Trout. That was the conversation last year. In 2020, he hit 205. I don't know. I tried to figure out. I've done some digging on Christian Yelich for this video and for other shows, and he just never got on track. I went back and looked. I tried to break down his season into segments and stretches. They were all bad. I mean, and there's plenty of fantasy players and analysts who are wondering what to do with 2020 stats, like we talked about. I mentioned that you can't just throw 2020 out. Well, the exception is Christian Yelich, a number 1 overall type of fantasy player. Take his 2020 and never mention that 205 batting average ever again. He's got the pedigree. This is not a gut call either. Like, I know that sometimes we just want to say, this is how I feel. I feel it coming. But there's actually if you will indulge me for a little bit deeper numbers to back up Yelich. When you look at his batting profile or how he goes about his business when he's hitting, he did not chase more pitches than he has in the past. In fact, he actually chased fewer pitches. He was more selective, which I'm not sure if that was because he was in a slump and he was waiting for the right pitch. I don't know. Overall, he just wasn't aggressive, right? In his career, he's been a very aggressive hitter. So I think maybe a little bit of slump brain there. And then when he did swing, I don't know if he was swinging the same way as he has in the past because he was making less contact in the strike zone than he has been typically. So what I see from that, and people can take that as this is bad. This is all bad things. He's not aggressive. He's not hitting balls that are in the zone. I take it the exact opposite way. There's so much room for growth from 2020 to go back to his 2019 version. 3 hot weeks. I'm going to tell you right now, 3 hot weeks in April, and Christian Yelich is the talk of baseball again. This is like the ultimate discount. You never, ever, ever get these guys at the end of the first round like a Yelich. I am taking him all the time, every single draft I have when the top 5 or 6 hitters go off the board, and I can take Yelich and just bank that. You got to be kidding me with this Yelich going 11th. It's crazy.
All right, I just have one quick question before we move on to your next player. So if you're committing to taking Yelich at the very end of the first, maybe the beginning of the second, maybe you're picking at that 1-2 turn, who are you trying to pair him with? Are you trying to pair him with that starting pitcher, or are you just going to see what value falls to you with another hitter?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to go with this. And the reason why there are a lot of ways, and this is ties back into the starting pitching conversation. The reason why there's a lot of ways to go when you take Christian Yelich is because you're not stuck looking for these categories. You know he's going to hit homers. You know he's going to steal bases. You know he's going to build your average up to a point where you can take a chance on a guy who's a 220 hitter who could hit 50 home runs, a la Franmil Reyes way, way late in your drafts. Like you can take Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You can take these chances on other players because you've already locked in Yelich to all of those categories. And in points leagues too, doesn't strike out. So I want to make that perfectly clear. This is a great strategy in points leagues as well with Yelich. And he's already hit 40 homers. So we know that that's in his bat. If you wanted to pair him with a starting pitcher, I wouldn't crush you for that. That is not terrible. If you really think, if you really, really, truly believe that, because in that, a lot of drafts for fantasy in general, it comes down, we're playing serpentine or snake drafts. It comes down to where your slot is. So some of the player pool is not even available to you, right? Like if you're drafting at the end of rounds, guys who are going end round 2, beginning round 3, they're probably not going to appear in your pool ever. You're just never going to get a chance to draft them if you're at the end of round 1. So pairing Christian Yelich with one of those pitchers that's going in round 2, Castillo, Buehler, Giolito, or, one of those guys, perfectly fine with that.
Awesome. Well, let's get to your next guy and let's just hear him.
Yeah. So I've got some basic, if you haven't figured it out by now watching all these videos of me, I've got some basic principles that I follow. And one of them is near the top of your drafts, draft players who can help me everywhere. Try to avoid the empty fantasy baseball calories, whether that's saves, steals, or average alone, as best as you can. You need to get those full players. And one of those guys that's going way too low that I like is Starling Marte of the Miami Marlins. He's going 49th overall, super just consistent all the way across the board. Chips in with his average, 287 career. His steals, his stolen base potential. Coming into 2020, he had a 7-year run where he stole 227 bases in those 7 years. Awesome. Flat out fast. In 2018 and 2019, he decided he was going to turn up his power. So he hit 20 and 23 home runs in those seasons going into 2020. He's going to be right there, right around the 85 runs, 75 RBI when you head into round 5. And at this point in the draft, there are question marks that start to accumulate on players for all the players. Starling Marte is the answer in round 5. No questions to be asked.
Awesome. Well, let's just take that momentum. Let's go to your next player in San Diego. Let's hear.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Another player I'm circling, and that's because of his transient abilities. It's across categories. It's Trent Grisham, San Diego Padres, 67th overall. I don't know how much you know about the Padres, but there's a lot of ways that this San Diego team, who's built to win now, can go with their lineup. But it looks like today that Grisham is going to be the leadoff batter. And that means he gets to hit in front of Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. If that happens all season long, look out. The guy's, he's 24 years old, burst onto the scene last year during that COVID season. In that shortened season, he hit 10 home runs and stole 10 bases in just 59 games. Also scored 42 runs in 59 games, basically a run every single night. Runs for the San Diego team obviously are going to be easy to come by. They're going to score all sorts of runs. The concern, again, we get into deeper into the player pool. There has to be, there are some concerns with these players. His average could dip below 250. But if you're looking late round 6, early to mid round 7, they've all got warts. All these players have warts in their game. Trent Grisham, he's a frog that could turn into a prince. Not many players can even come close to the words 30-30, 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. But truly, in Grisham's range of outcomes for 2021, he has that. That is truly in there. I can't pass on that opportunity at this point in the draft.
All right, just because we are running short on time, I'm not going to chip in here. Hey, this is just going to be 100% you. Let's hear your last player. And then
yeah, real quick, one bonus pick. Going at pick 160 is Baltimore Orioles slugger Anthony Santander. Hard to say, doesn't look like it, but Santander. He is legit a big league grown man strength, power hitting profile, and it comes with a bonus. Santander should keep your batting average safe with like a mid 260s projections. Camden Yards in Baltimore. We all know it's a haven for home runs for right-handed batters. Santander is a switch hitter with more power from the right side, but he can still hit with force from the left too. Power not just at home, not just a product of his park. He's got 32 career home runs, 18 at home, 14 on the road. He is a legit 40 home run seasons, not just season. He's got legit 40 home run seasons coming, plural. He'll be in the top 100 overall in 2022 drafts for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for this video. You have anything to plug so the people can go out there and find your stuff?
fantasyandframes.com. Check out our relief pitcher rankings, our mound visits, ADP Market Watch, all of our articles from Nate and Todd and myself.